The Maryland State Quarter, 1788 to 2000. History of Maryland and the United States of America. The Maryland State Quarter, released in the year 2000, is one of the most meaningful coins in the United States Mint's 50 State Quarters program. The coin honors Maryland's important role in the formation and development of the United States of America. The date 1788 on the coin marks the year Maryland became the 7th state to ratify the United States Constitution, while 2000 represents the year the quarter was issued to the public. The Maryland Quarter is more than a piece of currency. It is a symbol of American unity, democracy, and history. The design of the coin reflects Maryland's identity and its connection to the nation's capital and the country's founding values. Through this quarter, Americans are reminded of Maryland's contributions to politics, culture, education, religion, transportation, and the defense of the nation. The beginning of Maryland. The history of Maryland began long before Europeans arrived in North America. Native American tribes such as the Piscataway, Susquehannock, and Nanticoke lived in the region for thousands of years. These communities hunted, farmed, traded, and built organized societies along the rivers and forests of the area. In 1632, King Charles I of England granted land north of Virginia to Cecilius Calvert, also known as Lord Baltimore. The colony was named Maryland in honor of Queen Henrietta Maria, the wife of King Charles I. Maryland became one of the original 13 English colonies in North America. The colony was founded as a place where Roman Catholics could practice their religion freely. At that time, religious conflict was common in Europe, and Catholics often faced persecution in England. Maryland's founders hoped to create a peaceful society based on tolerance and cooperation. In 1634, the first settlers arrived aboard 2 ships, the Ark and the Dove. They established the settlement of St. Mary's City, which became Maryland's first capital. Farming quickly became the foundation of the colony's economy, especially tobacco production. Maryland and religious freedom. One of Maryland's most important historical contributions was the idea of religious tolerance. In 1649, the Maryland Assembly passed the Maryland Toleration Act. This law granted freedom of worship to all Christians in the colony. Although the law did not provide complete religious freedom by modern standards, it was a major step toward the principle of liberty in America. The ideas of tolerance and freedom later became part of the values of the United States. Maryland's role in supporting religious liberty influenced the development of the American Constitution and the Bill of Rights. The state became known as a place where different beliefs could exist together peacefully. Maryland during the American Revolution. By the 1700s, tensions between the American colonies and Great Britain were growing. Maryland joined the movement for independence and supported the fight against British rule. Maryland soldiers fought bravely during the American Revolutionary War. One famous group was the Maryland Line, whose courage during battles earned Maryland the nickname the Old Line State. Citizens of Maryland supported independence through military service, supplies, and political leadership. Maryland patriots believed that the colonies deserved representation, freedom, and self-government. The state also played an important role in supporting George Washington and the Continental Army during difficult moments in the war. Maryland ratifies the Constitution in 1788. The date 1788 on the Maryland Quarter is extremely important. On April 28, 1788, Maryland became the 7th state to ratify the United States Constitution. The Constitution created the framework for the new American government after independence from Britain. By ratifying the Constitution, Maryland helped establish the United States as a unified nation. Maryland leaders believed in a stronger federal government that could protect liberty and maintain national stability. The state's approval helped encourage other states to join the Union under the Constitution. This moment remains one of the proudest achievements in Maryland history, which is why the date appears prominently on the quarter. The design of the Maryland Quarter. The Maryland State Quarter was released on March 13, 2000, as the fifth coin in the United States Mint's 50 State Quarters program. The reverse side of the quarter features the dome of the Maryland State House in Annapolis. The Maryland State House is the oldest state capitol building in continuous legislative use in the United States. The building has enormous historical importance. It served briefly as the capital of the United States after the Revolutionary War. Inside the State House, George Washington resigned his military commission in 1783, an act that demonstrated civilian control over the military and strengthened democracy. The words "the old line state" also appear on the coin, honoring Maryland soldiers who fought in the Revolutionary War. The coin design represents patriotism, leadership, independence, and the constitutional history of the United States. Annapolis, a historic capital. Annapolis is one of America's oldest and most historic cities. Founded in the 1600s, Annapolis became Maryland's capital in 1694. The city played an important role during the Revolutionary War and the early years of the United States. In 1783 and 1784, Annapolis served as the temporary capital of the nation under the Articles of Confederation. One of the most famous moments in American history occurred there when George Washington resigned as commander of the Continental Army. His resignation showed that military leaders would obey civilian government, which became a key principle of American democracy. Annapolis is also home to the United States Naval Academy, established in 1845 to train officers for the United States Navy and Marine Corps. Today, Annapolis remains an important political, educational, and cultural center. Maryland and the War of 1812. Maryland was also central to the War of 1812. During the war, British forces attacked the city of Baltimore in 1814. The successful defense of Fort McHenry became one of the most famous events in American history. During the battle, attorney and poet Francis Scott Key witnessed the American flag still flying over the fort after heavy bombardment. Inspired by the event, he wrote the poem that later became the Star-Spangled Banner, the national anthem of the United States. This moment strengthened American patriotism and gave Maryland a permanent place in the story of the nation. Baltimore and industrial growth. Baltimore became one of the most important cities in early American history. Its harbor and transportation systems helped the United States grow economically during the 1800s. Baltimore developed industries such as shipbuilding, steel production, railroads, and manufacturing. The city became a center of trade and immigration, attracting people from Europe and other regions. The famous Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, established in 1827, was America's first commercial railroad. It transformed transportation and commerce across the nation. Baltimore also became known for education, medicine, literature, and the arts. Maryland during the Civil War. During the American Civil War, Maryland occupied a difficult position as a border state between the North and South. Although Maryland allowed slavery before the war, it remained part of the Union. The state's location made it strategically vital because it surrounded the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Citizens of Maryland were divided in their loyalties. Some supported the Union, while others sympathized with the Confederacy. Despite internal tensions, Maryland's continued membership in the Union helped protect the federal government during the conflict. Several important Civil War battles occurred near Maryland, including the Battle of Antietam in 1862. Fought near Sharpsburg, Maryland, Antietam became the bloodiest single day in American military history. The Union victory at Antietam encouraged President Abraham Lincoln to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared freedom for enslaved people in Confederate territories. Education and innovation in Maryland. Maryland has long been a center of education and scientific advancement. The state is home to respected universities, research institutions, and government agencies. Johns Hopkins University became one of the world's leading institutions for medicine, science, and research after its founding in 1876. Maryland is also connected closely to the federal government because of its proximity to Washington, D.C. Many national agencies and military organizations operate within the state. The state has contributed to advancements in medicine, aerospace, cybersecurity, engineering, and environmental science. Maryland's geography and natural beauty. Maryland is known as America in miniature because it contains many different types of landscapes within a relatively small area. The state includes mountains in the west, rolling farmland in central regions, forests, rivers, beaches, and the famous Chesapeake Bay in the east. The Chesapeake Bay is the largest estuary in the United States and an important part of Maryland's identity. The bay supports fishing, tourism, transportation, and wildlife. Maryland is especially famous for blue crabs and seafood traditions connected to the Chesapeake Bay region. Natural resources and waterways helped shape Maryland's economy and culture throughout history. The 50-State Quarters Program. The Maryland Quarter was part of the United States Mint's successful 50-State Quarters Program, which ran from 1999 to 2008. Each state received a unique quarter featuring symbols and images representing its history and culture. The program encouraged millions of Americans to collect coins and learn about the nation's heritage. The Maryland Quarter became popular because of its elegant design and strong connection to American history. Collectors appreciated the coin for its historical meaning, especially the image of the Maryland State House and the reference to 1788. The program itself became one of the most successful coin programs ever produced by the United States Mint. Symbolism of the Maryland Quarter. Every part of the Maryland Quarter carries symbolic meaning. The Maryland State House represents democracy and constitutional government. The year 1788 marks Maryland's ratification of the Constitution. The year 2000 honors the modern release of the coin. The Old Line State recognizes Maryland's soldiers of the Revolutionary War. The coin itself connects past and present generations of Americans. The quarter teaches people that history is not only found in books or museums. It can also appear in everyday objects such as money. Maryland in modern America. Today, Maryland remains one of the most influential states in the country. Its economy includes technology, medicine, defense, shipping, education, and tourism. The state's location near Washington, D.C., gives it strategic political importance. Many federal employees and military personnel live and work in Maryland. Maryland also continues to celebrate diversity and innovation. People from many cultural backgrounds contribute to the state's communities and economy. Modern Maryland balances historical preservation with scientific progress and urban development. The importance of coin collecting. Coins like the Maryland Quarter help preserve national memory. Through coin collecting, people learn about history, geography, politics, and culture. Collectors often study the artwork, minting process, and historical background of coins. State quarters became educational tools for schools and families across America. The Maryland Quarter is especially admired because it represents foundational moments in United States history, including constitutional government and democratic leadership. For many collectors, the coin symbolizes patriotism and respect for America's origins. George Washington and Maryland. One reason the Maryland Quarter is historically important is its connection to George Washington. Washington's resignation at the Maryland State House in Annapolis demonstrated humility and dedication to democratic principles. Rather than becoming a military ruler, he returned power to civilian leaders. Historians often view this act as one of the most important moments in the development of modern democracy. By placing the Maryland State House on the quarter, the coin honors Washington's commitment to liberty and constitutional government. Maryland's lasting legacy. Maryland's legacy can be seen throughout American history. The state contributed religious tolerance, Revolutionary War leadership, constitutional support, national defense, industrial growth, educational excellence, scientific advancement. From colonial times to the modern era, Maryland has helped shape the identity of the United States. The Maryland Quarter reminds Americans that every state has a unique story, and that the strength of the nation comes from the contributions of all its people. Conclusion: the Maryland State Quarter, issued in 2000, is far more than a simple 25-cent coin. It is a tribute to Maryland's deep and lasting role in the history of the United States. The date, 1788, honors Maryland's ratification of the Constitution and its support for the creation of a strong and united nation. The image of the Maryland State House connects the coin to George Washington, democracy, and the foundations of American government. From religious freedom in colonial times to leadership during the Revolutionary War. From the defense of Fort McHenry to the industrial rise of Baltimore, Maryland has consistently influenced the growth of America. The quarter also reflects broader American ideals: liberty, unity, courage, and democratic government. Through this small coin, millions of people can remember the sacrifices, achievements, and values that shaped the nation. As part of the 50 State Quarters program, the Maryland Quarter continues to educate and inspire collectors, students, historians, and citizens. It stands as a lasting symbol of the rich heritage of Maryland and the enduring story of the United States of America.